KL Publications presents Peace Be Still, The Lynchville Standoff by Ryan C. Sanders. Lynchville, Mississippi was no stranger to pain. Over the years, the town's name, a hunting reminder of violence and racial terror that had plagued the South for centuries, was stamped into history. Mississippi, the state with the highest number of recorded lynchings, was where the earth had long soaked up the blood of its innocent. In recent years, it seemed like history was repeating itself as young black men were found hanged from trees, deaths dismissed as suicides by officials, but viewed with skepticism and suspicion by the community. The mysterious death of Rasheem Carter in 2022 had brought the town's tension to a boiling point. It was a modern-day lynching, a symptom of deep-rooted racial hatred, and the people had enough. But Lynchville wasn't just a place defined by violence. It was also the home of the Tunica people, a community fiercely in tune with the land, the environment, and justice. The Tunica people, both black and indigenous, lived with an unshakable bond to the earth and believed in the intrinsic connection between protecting nature and protecting human life. Over the generations, they have cultivated a love for the planet, nurturing the ecosystem with sustainable farming and living in harmony with the forest and the rivers. Now, with the threat of racial violence escalating alongside the environmental destruction of their lands by greedy corporations, they realized that they had no choice but to act. The call to action. It began with a gathering, small at first. Elders, young activists, community leaders, and environmental protectors met under the large oak tree at the edge of the Tunica Valley. This tree, a symbol of strength and longevity, has stood for hundreds of years, watching over the land as a silent sentinel. The people of Tunica gathered under the protective branches, determining to send a message that enough was enough. Javion, a young activist whose brother had been killed by vigilantes years earlier, spoke to the crowd with fire in his voice. They think they can just take everything from us, our land, our people, our dignity, he said. But we're still standing. We've protected this land for generations, and now we have to protect ourselves too. If we lose this land, we lose our souls. And if we let them keep killing us, we lose our humanity. Aya, one of the oldest members of the Tunica, followed him. Her voice was calm, yet reverberated through the crowd like a distant thunderstorm. We fight not because we want to, but because we must. We fight not with hatred, but with love. Love for our people, love for our planet. But let it be known, we will protect our own, and we will hold those who terrorize us accountable. The plan was simple but rooted in resilience. The community would stand as one. They would continue to protect their land and themselves, showing love in the face of hatred. But they would no longer sit back as their people were hunted. If anyone came to the land with the intent to harm, the people of Tunica would defend themselves, not with senseless violence, but with firm resistance, even if the force was necessary. The defense of Tunica. It didn't take long for tensions to rise. The corporations that had been clear-cutting forests and poisoning rivers with chemicals ran off long ignored the pleas of the Tunica people. They sent in security forces, mercenaries hired to silence protesters and push through their destruction. The security forces, often made up of local thugs who harbored their own racial prejudices, were no strangers to violence. One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, a group of these hired men descended on the edge of the Tunica Valley, armed and aggressive. They entered the forest, threatening to bulldoze more of the sacred trees, pollute the streams. When Caven, a young leader in the community, approached them peacefully, he was beaten and left unconscious on the forest floor. That was their last straw. The next morning, the people of Tunica gathered, armed not with guns, but with knowledge of the land. They created barriers, walls of thick vines, trees, felled strategically to block paths, and hidden traps that would disable the invaders' machines. The security forces arrived again, this time to find their equipment useless, stuck in the mud or disabled by the land itself. When they stormed forward to confront the villagers, the people stood firm, surrounding the sacred oak tree, a living symbol of their resistance. One of the security men, holding a club, charged at an elderly woman who stood in front of the line. A group of young men and women led by Jevion intercepted him. They did not kill him, but knocked him to the ground and disarmed him. It was a clear message. The people of Tunica was not to be terrorized. There were several clashes over the next few weeks. In each case, the Tunica people fought only to defend themselves and their land. They used minimal force, enough to stop the invaders, but never more than necessary. And with every battle, they grew stronger, not just in numbers, but in spirit. Their love for their land and people gave them a power that guns and violence could not match. The turning point. The corporations, frustrated by their inability to break the Tunica people's resistance, finally called in the local authorities. But this time, the authorities found themselves facing an unexpected force. Civil rights organizations, environmental activists, and journalists from across the country had descended on Lynchville, shining a spotlight on the atrocities happening there. The world was watching, and the corporations knew they could no longer act with impunity. Ben Crump, the prominent civil rights attorney who had been fighting for justice in the case of Rasheem Carter, took up the Tunica community's cause as well. "This is not just a fight for land," Crump said at a press conference. "This is a fight for justice, for life, for the future of our planet. The people of Tunica are standing up against not just the destruction of their home, but the destruction of humanity's connection to Earth." Under pressure from the growing movement, the state government launched an investigation into the illegal activities of the corporations. Several executives were arrested and held accountable for the environmental crimes and violations of human rights. The security forces were disbanded, and the federal government intervened, declaring that the Tunica people and the valley are protected in the environmental zone. A path forward. With the immediate threat to their land neutralized, the people of Tunica knew that the fight was far from over, but they had already taken steps toward a solution that would benefit not only their community, but the planet as a whole. Working with the environmental organizations, they launched a sustainable farming and conservation initiative that would serve as a model for other communities as well, facing similar threats. They used traditional knowledge to heal the land that had been damaged and invited people from all over the world to learn from their way of life. In Lynchville, Mississippi, a town that had once been synonymous with terror and death, the people of Tunica turned their love for the land into a beacon of hope. They showed that even in the face of hatred and violence, communities could stand together and protect not only themselves, but the world around them. They held accountable those who sought to terrorize, not with hatred, but with fierce love for justice and the planet. Enough was enough, and the people of Tunica had shown the world that love backed by strength and determination could indeed change the course of his story. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe.
Let it be soon, don't hesitate, make it now, don't wait. Open your heart and let my love come in. I want the moment to start when I can feel you.